Okay. I don't see the little thing that says recording.
Just come up being recorded. I just heard it on my side.
Oh, it did? Okay. Oh, okay, there it is. It's on the right side. It used to be on the left side now. All right, so hello everyone. My name is Arwa. I am the lead organizer for Skill Up and Network Orlando. And Skill Up and Network Orlando is a group of professionals and entrepreneurs committed to personal and professional growth and networking with like-minded individuals. So whether you're looking to grow your network or strengthening your professional and personal skill set, this group is for you. And today we're joined with John Barnes, the founder and CEO of Entangled Positions. And he's going to be talking to us about our transition from academia to industry. And we're very excited to welcome him. Hello, John.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Awewa. Thanks for the kind introduction. So good morning to you all. So it's great to be here with Skill Up and Network Orlando and to give this talk regarding how to transition from academia to industry. And whilst we're focusing on quantum technologies, much of what we discussed can be applied to other deep tech sectors and also the wider job hunting market as well. So if you're not an academic, a lot of this still does count for you as well. And I'm also keen, where we've got people in the audience, if people want to ask questions along the way and try and help tailor the talk and make it as bespoke for people as possible. I'm always open to lots of questions, and the more awkward they are, the better they are, I think. So don't be afraid to ask anything there. So as mentioned, my name's John Barnes, and I'm the founder CEO of Entangled Positions, pure play quantum recruitment firm. So my background, I've got over 2 decades working in tech recruitment, and over a decade of that, so since 2014, I've been in quantum recruitment. So I was the first person in the world to do this, probably by about 5 years or so. So way before there was much money in it or anyone was really paying much attention. So and one of the things that struck me is what a pleasure it is to speak to people who are at the forefront of really changing the world, and particularly those who don't yet know the role that they will play, and really have that future in front of them. So and as I say, it's brilliant working in this sector, but I sometimes get a little bit jealous as I get to see all the amazing things that you're all doing, but I never get to play with lasers or write algorithms. So I speak to the cool people, but I don't get to do it myself. So so in terms of today's talk, so basically why are we here, first of all? So I think the key points here are we're trying to demystify, to encourage, and to empower. So to demystify, so what to expect and what is expected of you. Encourage, break down some of the sort of scary misconceptions that can build up in and around workforce, and also empower, give you the information to make informed decisions and really take control of your future. We're here amongst technologists, entrepreneurs, business people, scientists, technologists. There's a lot to work with here, so have confidence in your skills, and hopefully we can help unlock the key for some of you, or further the ambitions of others. So as I say, we do want to make this as fitting as possible, so please do bring any questions you have. Araya, if you wouldn't mind doing the moderating on that side of things.
Of course.
So as we're talking, if people want to sort of drop into the chat, whether you're from academia, industry, government, NGOs, what you're working on and things like that, so we can get a little bit of a feel for the audience, that'd be great. And I think a good place to start is the kind of the landscape, set out the scene that we're working in. So when you look at the job market in quantum, it's a little bit, it's not separate from the outside world, but it is somewhat insulated from the wider world. For a long time now, quantum companies have been their finances are more based on investment. So whether that's government investment, venture capitalists, or other, and it means that they've been sort of insulated slightly from any wider economic downturns and anything like that. That obviously doesn't last forever, and more companies are having to become more commercially savvy. And what that means is that the market is really buoyant. It's a growing market, and it also evolves really, really quickly. So there's constantly new roles emerging. And in the words of my good friend Chris Bishop, many of you will be exceeding at jobs that don't yet exist during your career. And one of the things, for example, that if I go back to 2014 when I first started, the market was very much driven by, or the requirements, sorry, were very much driven by, lab-based experimentalists or quite heavy algorithm developers, very much about the fundamental research aspects of quantum. And over years, that's evolved and developed. So over time, people got more. So the companies that were making products for quantum companies, they were looking to engage and find out requirements that people needed. So they had scientists that would be speaking with potential customers, whether that was Nobel laureates, professors, companies that would growing to build quantum technologies. And so the communication skills evolved. We've then seen over perhaps the last sort of 5 to 10 years where there's been an ever increasing development on product focused people, or making applications, making things that can be used. And then there's been an increase in commercially focused people. And this has culminated within perhaps the last 6 months or so, maybe less. There's been a really dramatic uptick in requirements for business development, sales, partnership type roles as well. And this is a signal that the quantum ecosystem is really growing up, and it's making strides to be able to stand on its own 2 feet and generate commercial revenue that grown-up companies do. And so research is still the foundation of quantum technologies. There's an unusually high proportion of people working in the sector. There's still researchers, there's still experimentalists, there's still algorithm developers, there's still modelers and things like that. But and that side of the market is still growing quickly. But the other pieces of a business are growing more quickly. So if you look at tech businesses in general, the number of researchers as a percentage of headcount is significantly smaller than it is in quantum. So if you think of a chip manufacturer, for example, really high tech stuff, but they'll have a certain amount of researchers. They have people working on fabrication, but then they'll also have web developers. They'll have executive. They'll have salespeople. They'll have staff in the kitchen. They understand that people having a nice hot food to eat is important to get the job done. You need cleaners. You need all of the things that grown-up businesses have. And quantum companies are going on that journey. So there's a lot of opportunities arising for people that aren't necessarily quantum people, don't necessarily have the PhD, but have transferable skills. So those commercially savvy roles are really, really growing quickly. So when you mentioned that there's entrepreneurs in the call, that made my ears prick up, because those entrepreneurs, people that understand risk versus reward and are able to communicate with external parties, are really important. And this is not just within companies in terms of selling a product. This is also the wider ecosystem, because we need people to create policy. We need people to advocate for where quantum technology sits in the broader scheme of things. We need storytellers. We need people that can translate between one group and another. And that could be physicists to biologists. It could be talking with government or academia to industry. It could be, software to hardware, or scientists to member of the public. And all of these different pieces speak a slightly different language. So those people that can easily translate something complex into understandable terms, they're really, really important. So if you think about quantum mechanics, it's effectively the physics that underpins the whole of the physical universe. So even if we're not at the stage yet where all things can happen and we know all of the things, at some point there's going to be a fit for everyone to find a role within quantum if that's their desire. And within quantum, we need, it's difficult. The challenges we're working on are really difficult. So we need as many bright, intelligent, energetic, thoughtful people as we can possibly find, and particularly people that bring a different way of thinking into the equation. And one of the things that I think that I've noticed in my time in quantum is how it's such an inclusive and diverse sector. For those of you who maybe haven't immersed yourself in quantum, I recommend reaching out to people, talking to people. It's a small ecosystem, and that naturally means that a lot of people are friendly and welcoming and want to share what they're doing with people. And it's also is inherently diverse. The quantum, from a technology standpoint, quantum is made up from a wide range of different disciplines that have to come together. And alongside that, it's a global workforce. It's decentralized. So there's people from all over the world with different cultures, different strengths and weaknesses, different skill sets that come together. So the building blocks from ground up are created with a diverse, inclusive community, rather than in some traditional sectors where people have got to a certain stage and realize this is a good thing and have to kind of reverse engineer these things. With quantum, we're trying to build this from the ground up. So it's not without challenges. The work's never done, but it's built from a position where this is kind of inherent to what we're doing. So I think, the mantra should be, if you want to get involved in quantum, get involved in quantum. Don't be afraid of it, be excited by it. So I don't know if we've had any questions come in as of yet. If we have, I'm happy to jump on them or continue with the talk.
Just one quick question about quantum and AI integration. Quantum and AI are becoming increasingly intertwined with hybrid workflows, gaining traction. Are companies looking to develop quantum-safe AI pipelines? And is this an industry that you would recommend for someone breaking into quantum?
Yes, I think so. It's slightly nuanced. So yes, it's something that people are working on. I think when you look at how the relationship between quantum and AI, there's the upstream from quantum and then the downstream. So people are using AI tools or machine learning, deep neural network.
You're breaking up there, John.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
I can now, yes.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure where you lost me, but I just explained that if you look at the upstream side of things from quantum, there's good use of people using AI or machine learning, other data-driven techniques to improve and optimize the quantum technologies they're making. I think where a lot of people look at these things is quantum computing AI, how quantum computing can disrupt AI. But for the most part, we're not really at a stage where that's particularly effective. Loading large data models and things like that are very challenging. So I think in that respect, in terms of a career, so in terms of using AI skills to optimize and improve quantum technologies, that's certainly something that's proving valuable here and now, particularly with things like sensing and maybe communications, but sensing especially where there's real world technologies and sort of optimizing that. In terms of making quantum AI, so using quantum computers to improve AI and all the things we hear about how it can go through large data sets and everything like that, there's some technical challenges, meaning that's not at a particularly commercially viable use case yet. However, over time, as capacity increases, I think that's certainly a viable opportunity. I'm not going to try and predict the timeline on that though. So I would suggest for the person who asked the question to look at where you are in your career. So if you're just starting a bachelor's and you plan to get a master's and a PhD, you've got quite a long runway to enter into it. If you're someone who's using AI to to make applications, jumping into quantum computing, you're going to be coming in at quite an early stage, as opposed to making massively impactful real world applications with quantum AI here and now. So I think that timeline is important to recognize and understand, and whether you're looking to go upstream or downstream from the quantum devices themselves. Oh, you muted yourself when you started talking.
Oh, my bad. Sounds really good, John. Thank you.
So, and it kind of takes me quite nicely onto the next point, and kind of looking at what you can do to increase your chances of working in quantum. And I mentioned about the timeline and where you want to sit in the product life cycle. So, and I think if you take one piece of advice from today's talk, or remember one thing, it's and this is for job hunting in general, but it's understand for yourself what is important to you. Because when people ask me how to get a job in quantum, it's such a common question: how do I get a job in quantum? And almost, I think some people expect me to say, well, get this qualification and that's that done, and you're fine, you've got a job in quantum. It's not really like that. There's things you can be doing to aid your chances, and there's a lot of desirable skills. But the first point should always be to understand what is important to you. Because when you know what your passion is, what problems you want to solve, what challenges you want to address, what motivates you and makes you happy and contented, when you kind of get a feeling for what that is and what's important to you, you can then plan the journey ahead of you. You can work out what skills you need. You can work out what connections you need to make, where you need to network. And once you have that understanding of where you want to get to, you can plan a route towards that. Otherwise, you're kind of moving along a flow that isn't of your making. So if there's one thing I can say, is understand what's important to you first of all, and then work out how to get to where you want to be. And understanding that environment you aspire to be in. So, for example, if you're coming at quantum from a communications view, understand what the core technologies are. Understand how you need to communicate. So maybe what you need to do to take very complex scientific methodologies and how to translate that to the audience you want. So whether that's the general public or politicians or execs, CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, but understand what it is you want to achieve. If you're looking to be a lab-based experimentalist, it may be that you want to do a PhD within that field. If you want to be in management, look at developing those skills. And this could be that you're doing training courses or studying, or it could be that you're doing this in a job. It might be you get a job in a certain area, and within that you're able to develop into the thing you want to be. So have that mindset of understanding the environment that you're looking to be working in and what skills are required for that. And the flip side, to understanding what's required to get you to where you want to be is what's preventing you getting where you want to be. So it might be that, for example, we work in a global industry. So for some people, it may be a personal thing. So for some people, maybe they've got children of a certain age and they don't want to move from one country to another country until their children get a little bit older and can make the journey. These are things that you need to factor in, because your work and life impact on each other, and you can't. It's not like a physics experiment when you can separate family and things like this. So it may be that's what's preventing you from where you want to be is a qualification. Well, you can go and get the qualification. It may be it's experience. So maybe you learn and really get to know what it's like. And so you've kind of got the you've got the skills, you're overcoming the hurdles, and you're really developing into the person and place you want to be. And these things, when you're looking to achieve something that is quite difficult, normally that takes quite a bit of time. It's not, things that are important often aren't easy, so they do take time, they do take effort, and there's a balance to that. So for some people, the PhD route is really, really important. It does take a long time, and you gain fantastic skills. You also lose some skills along the way for a lot of people. They're so focused on their work, their communication skills may drop because they haven't spoken to anyone for 2 years whilst they're looking to get the results right. And you have to relearn that. If you're doing, say, a Kisket summer school, for example, that doesn't take nearly as long. It's probably, if you weighted them against each other, it's less valuable.
Oh, you're breaking up there, John.
Where people like to focus on, and skills are really important, but also attributes are equally, if not more important. So when you're gaining the skills and developing to where you want to be, most people find as they look forward, they always want to be at the next step and the next step, and it takes longer. When you're ambitious, it takes longer to get to where you want to be than you hope for, and you always want to be in the next step. And that, I think that's true for a lot of ambitious people. But the trick is every now and again, look back and see how far you've come. So, you've been doing something for a month and you think, oh, I'm never going to understand this. This is so complicated. What am I doing? Look back and see where you were a month ago and think, oh, I've learned this. I've learned that. Wow, I've done this. Actually, I've done quite a lot in that time. And do the same 3 months, 6 months. Every time you feel a little bit lost and a little bit, you lose a bit of hope, look back and see how far you've come. And it's amazing how the view looks different in your rear view mirror to out of the front window. And I think this fits in with developing attributes. So, you can develop your skills, whether that's coding, laser physics, or maths, or whatever it might be, that are really important. But you also have attributes. So, I think resilience is really, really important in a jobs market. Being resilient, not everything's going to go your way at all times. So when you do get knocked back, when something does go wrong, own it, look into why it happened, be truthful with yourself, and use that as a tool to further develop and be resilient. Just because you've had a setback, that doesn't define your future. If you treat it in the right way, it actually makes your future stronger. But you have to have the strength of mind to be able to do that and be honest with yourself and think, what could I have done differently? Look inside yourself to try and understand that. Communication skills. How do you communicate with people? How do you build relationships with people? And this is in person, this is online, this is via text, via verbal communication, and much more. Are you someone who likes to speak publicly? Are you someone who likes to write articles? Is it a technical article you're writing, or is it more of a personal article you're writing? And all of these communication skills are really, really important. And you often find that you could have two people that are going for the same role, and there may be one of them who's better on paper, better technically, maybe more experienced. But sometimes you get the person whose communication skills are stronger, that is able to get the role because they had something different. They had a certain gravitas to what they're doing. And these things, this isn't something you sort of complete and get a certificate. Communication skills are constantly developing. You're constantly building relationships. So go and talk to as wide a variety of people you can, and get to learn how they talk, how they communicate. Working in quantum, I think I'd probably naturally go into different communication modes dependent upon the person I'm speaking to, and often these characteristics, they're more prevalent within certain roles, certain functions than others. So then the more you speak, the more you talk to people, the more you get used to these nuances, and you can pick out personality types without, you're not sort of really consciously thinking of it, but you're just making it easier for you to communicate with that person, that individual, on a one-to-one basis. So those communication skills are fantastic to drive forward your career. And being adaptable. I mentioned earlier, a lot of you will be successful in jobs that don't yet exist. So be adaptable. If you're working on, say for example, you're coding in a certain language, and then that language, all of a sudden something comes out and that language is made obsolete overnight. Okay, you're not going to be coding in that language, but guess what? You've learned skills how to code. Maths. You've done problem solving. You've developed these skills, so you're adaptable. If you can add management skills, for example, to technical skills, you future-proof your career. If you understand, product life cycles or stakeholder management and all of these sorts of the maybe the softer skills or more operational skills, you're adding layers and layers to your career that future-proofs you. And being adaptable to change is a real strength that can set you out from the market. And I think there's two main drivers behind this. And I think the first one, and I would imagine the people, if they're on this call, they have the first one, and that's be curious. Always be curious. If you've got a curious mind, you never stop learning, and it never feels like a chore. It's always a pleasure. And this is really, really important. And not only for your well-being and personal growth, but if you're an employer and you've got someone curious, that you've got the potential for a really good employee, because they're always going to want to learn and develop and grow further. So that curiosity, never let your curiosity burn out. And if you can combine that with passion, if you can work at something that you're passionate about and driven and you want to achieve, that's a really powerful combination to have, curiosity and passion in the same in the same person. And once you've got that, it's much easier to develop the skills and the attributes you need, because you want to do it, you're driven to do it. So these I think are things that are often underestimated when people talk about their careers and their career goals and what they need to do. If you can focus on those, the rest becomes much easier. So I don't know whether there was any other questions for us to jump out to at this venture.
So just one quick one. How can early career professionals build meaningful industry connections without overwhelming people?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I think's really powerful in the modern world is most of you are probably on LinkedIn, for example. So a good way to develop your network on LinkedIn is find people that are maybe where you aspire to be. So perhaps look at someone who's maybe where you want to be in 5 years' time, and you can reach out with a nice polite message saying something along the lines of I'm really inspired by the career you've made. I'd love to know more about it. Would you be open to a conversation, or is there any guidance you can give me? Most people probably would come back to you and offer some sort of support or guidance. And the worst that happens, if not, is someone doesn't respond to you. That's fine. There's no harm done for someone not responding to you. Fine, move on to someone who will talk to you and build up that rapport there. So I think, and this is one of the ways of understanding what you need to manifest the career goals you have, because you can guarantee if you find the person you think, wow, I want to be like them in 5 years' time, they're probably, for the most part, they'll tell you the things that they thought went well. They're probably more likely as well to tell you the things that didn't go well and say, look, I tried this, it didn't work for me, beware of this. If this happens, it may not be the right thing. And that's great. That's almost more important than what you learn. So I think, use those tools. Alongside it, if we look at quantum, there's a lot of different events now. I think you can pretty much go to an event every day in quantum. So join events, go and listen to talks like this, or if there's something local to you, go to something in person. There's so many online. I would say if you're at the early stages, and I mean, I advise certain conferences that charge people and they do a great job. But if you're at the early stages, I would say don't invest, lots of money going to these things. If you're just learning, just go and attend the things that are free, get involved, see that you like it, see that you enjoy it, see that this could be for you, get an excitement about it before sort of spending, lots of money on something you're not certain of. So, and there's lots to do with that. There's lots that you can do with that. So I was recently speaking with the African Quantum Congress, and they do a weekly happy hour, really relaxed, people talking about quantum, really friendly, open community to join in there. And there's all sorts of other events and groups and things like that. So, sign up to LinkedIn groups, join events, join talks. Don't be afraid to contribute as well and ask questions. Most of us in quantum like getting asked the hard questions that make us think. And so, yeah, I think, just get involved, and like I say, do it in a way that takes up the least of your resources as possible to start with, and build that hunger, build that excitement. And what you'll also find is that quite quickly you'll get known and recognized over time within the quantum ecosystem, because it is quite small. Most of us know each other, so when someone comes along, you meet someone, they'll introduce you to their friends and so on and so forth. And it's really refreshing to see how quickly people are welcomed and encouraged, and I think able to offer value. I would say one thing I would say though is don't try and create attention by sort of using an AI tool to write a post for you, put it out on LinkedIn like an expert when you're not, because almost certainly the AI will hallucinate, and anyone that knows about quantum will see through it as a cheap attempt. So actually go in and be humble, be curious, ask questions, demonstrate the knowledge you have by all means, but don't try and sort of shortcut being a quantum expert. Come in and be humble, learning it. If I could go back and learn all the basics again, I'd love to do it. That's the most exciting piece. So just engage in your journey with an authentic, humble approach, and be curious, and the rest, it'll all come to you. It'll all come to you. That would be my kind of the sort of starter pack tips, I think. And actually, I think that this kind of takes on to the next section quite nicely, with the sort of tips and quick wins that people can use. And I think that communication and networking, looking at a variety of content channels, and I suspect as well. So I'm not particularly a TikTok user, for example, and TikTok's not going to really tell you how, it's not going to explain the Feynman lectures or something like that, but you might get some nice bite-sized quick little tidbits that you can explore further, and lots of other channels to explore. So I think I come back to that message. If you want to get involved in quantum, get involved in quantum and just jump into it. For the most part, you'll only meet friendly, nice, warm, welcoming people. And I think this is another thing that is often underestimated. People look at quantum and they think, well, it's I need the technical skills to do this. I need to make sure I've got this qualification and things like that. And these things are important, but also understand, what the culture is at an organization. If you're looking for a role, for example, or even a group of people to learn from, even if it's a community you're engaging with, what is the culture of that organization, of that group? Is that a culture you're proud to be a part of, or is it something where you think, I don't like this culture? I think it's there's something that doesn't resonate so strongly with me. Well, go and find a new culture. Go and find a place where you are happy, where you are invigorated, where you feel comfortable, you feel empowered and championed and respected. Go. You will find that there's something for everyone. So focus on not just what you're looking at, but who you're looking at and why, and actually form those bonds. I think that's really important. And actually, when it comes to things like the ethics and morals within quantum, and wider, everyone's got something to add to the mix. There's no, we often hear a lot of, when it comes to ethics and morals, we often hear a lot of dogma. People kind of repeat these mantras that have come from either political or academic echo chambers where they've never been challenged for years. And this is something I think that kind of needs to be broken down a bit. We do need to challenge these things. We do need to make sure that they're robust, you know. And I think for that, everyone has input into these things, and the more voices that are sharing what ethics and morals look like, the more robust that is. Not just having people sort of lecturing from on high that you must think this because I've told you to. You know, that dogma doesn't help anyone. And I think having the confidence to impart your personality, your values, in a respectful, well-mannered way is really, really important. And I think this is something that we should encourage rather than try to suppress, you know, and actually get people from all different backgrounds talking together and learning from each other, and building that culture, you know, improving that culture is really important. And I think this is one of the things where personality is really, really important. And if you look at it from if I sort of translate this into a job hunting approach, the academic or commercial credentials you have, that gives a company the confidence to interview you. But when your personality, that's really the thing that's going to give them the confidence when they hire. Because, you know, once you tick the box of the, you know, a good hiring manager should know you've got the skills to do the job before they, for the most part. But actually, when you get those, the personality, the attributes, the ethics and morals, and how you go about what your personality and attributes are like, that's the thing that really marks you out once you're in an interview. And I think part of this is really finding out what that looks like. You know, not just being told that this is what you should think, but actually working it out for yourself, and you know, speaking with people that have a different viewpoint to you, and really looking to explore why you think things and what the meaning behind is. And this is really, really important. Join a company from your bit of your personality to the mix as well. And I think having that voice is really, really important for everyone. And don't be afraid to share these accomplishments, whether, you know, in person or online. You know, the things you're proud of. I think sometimes people, you know, so if I win an award, for example, it's nice, I like it, it's fine, but it doesn't really matter. You know, it's someone's opinion that you've done a good job. Great. Someone else might not have thought I've done a good job, and that's fine as well. But actually, sometimes the things that really give me more value is when someone says, John, you know, you've really helped me with this. You've done this, and you don't realise quite how much you've helped. And these things, I think, are really important. So sometimes people don't share things. They think it's too small, no one will be interested. But that human piece is probably underestimated. So, you know, when you achieve something, do share it online, put it on your LinkedIn profile, because otherwise people won't know you've done that. If you've been involved in a cause or an event or something like that, share it, because if this is something you're proud and passionate about, you're going to attract the other people that think that's important and valuable. So you attract the people that that can help kind of your voice. It can help your voice expand further, and I think that's a really important thing. You know, not just speaking to people with different opinions to yourself, but also those that can echo and amplify what you're doing as well. And I think that personality side is often overlooked. And obviously, if you're at a talk like this, you know, you can be pretty certain you're doing some great work. You know, people that come to these sorts of talks, they want to learn, they want to evolve, they want to engage, and these are the signals of people that are that have the capacity to really change the world and do some great stuff. So, you know, be proud of that. You know, be confident about it. Stay humble alongside that, but be confident. If you get that blend between, confidence and humility, it's a really intoxicating thing for those that you engage with. And don't be sort of shy to to share the things that you think are important. And the flip side to that coin, so many people I speak to in quantum, whether they're particularly those transitioning from academia to industry, I'm in awe of these people. They're doing amazing things, and so many of them have imposter syndrome. And you almost want to be able to shine a mirror to them and show them how other people see themselves, because the imposter syndrome is such a big thing for a lot of people, particularly when they transition from academia to industry. And for the most cases, is something that's in your own mind, and actually other people don't see it that way. Now, there's no magic wand of, I can't click my fingers and imposter syndrome's gone and waved away. If only I could. But actually, lots of people feel this. You're not alone in that. And actually, I think when you realize that you're probably more worried about this than actually you need be, you can start to step forward. And I think when it comes to my journey in quantum, so I first got involved in quantum in 2014, and I not only did I feel like the only person who didn't have a PhD. I didn't actually study at university at all. So, no bachelor's, undergrad, not even, I've never taken a lesson at a university. And I've been working in quantum since 2014. And I coach people on how to overcome imposter syndrome. And you can imagine how much of the first time you sort of do it, that you feel a bit of a fraud, where you're speaking to PhDs and postdocs and professors about their imposter syndrome, having never gone to university. But actually, the skills to overcome imposter syndrome aren't necessarily on a university curriculum, and everyone's got something they can add to the mix. So I think from that side of things, have that confidence in what you're doing, in your story, and aim high. If you don't make it, that's fine. You don't have to succeed every time. Sometimes you might surprise yourself, but have that confidence and resilience, and that humility, and you'll find it will go a long way. And I think this all the kind of the knowing what you want can help give you that confidence. So if you know what you want, and the tools you need to develop, and you're able to create that's a really important learning curve. And actually, these are the things that will give you confidence. And over time, you'll find that you have a doubt, and you'll overcome it, and you go, wow, I didn't realize that was going to go that way. That went really well. And over time, you'll start to pull these things together, and you won't have imposter syndrome over certain things. And of course, it can always happen when you're taking further steps up. I'm not suggesting not, but actually treat it as kind of nervous excitement. If you're playing for those who play sport, if you're in a cup final and there's a big crowd watching, and you haven't got those little bit of nerves in your belly, you're probably not going to perform to your best. So look at that, treat it as creative excitement, and use that little bit of nervous tension to lift you up, to give you performance rush, and really develop on that. So, and I think one of the ways to overcome that imposter syndrome and make yourself a more robust individual that will appeal to the sorts of people that you want to work with is preparation. So whatever you're doing, whether you're studying, whether you're applying for a job, whether you're in a job, whether you're giving a talk, or whatever it might be, preparation. So know who you are, know who you're going to see, who you're going to be meeting, who you're going to be talking with. What do they do? What are their interests? If it's an interview, what does the company do? Where's their business? Who are their customers? What is it they're looking for? And we live in a world these days where you can pretty much find anyone's profile, look at what their background is. So maybe ask some questions that are personal to that individual. So looking at it from an interview perspective, let's say you're interviewing with a CEO of a startup that's 3 years old, and a software development manager who's been there for 3 months, say. So you might want to say to the CEO, look, you started 3 years ago. Obviously, you've grown quite a lot in that time. What is it that still gets you up and motivates you? It might be you say to the business development manager, you might ask something like, you joined fairly recently. What particularly excited you when you were joining, and how's that been different into the role? And there's knowing your audience and being able to speak to an individual on that basis, it does quite a few things. So first of all, your confidence is bolstered because you prepared, you've understood what you're coming into, your level of comfort should be higher because you prepared, you trained for this basically. So that can give you more confidence. That increases the appeal of speaking with you because your body language, your demeanor's improved, you come across more friendly and nice and warm, and people warm to that. You also then the people you're speaking to can see that you've done your due diligence, you prepared thoroughly for what you're doing. That resonates well. And the other thing is when you start asking specific questions about people's experience, so it makes it much harder for them to give the kind of the marketing answer, the marketing tagline that their teams come up with and they repeat over and over again. They're telling you about their experience. That doesn't come from a marketing team. That comes from their lived experience. And guess what? Most people, they like talking about themselves and the things they're proud of doing. So when they're explaining this, they're getting little endorphins and dopamine and all these sorts of good fuzzy feelings, chemicals running into their bloodstream. These feelings get associated with you. There's a psychology behind that. All these good feelings, this warm, fuzzy feeling, that gets associated with you. That gets linked to you. You're perceived as being good and warm and friendly. They remember that warm feeling when they think of you. And also there's an element of vulnerability to that. They're selling a little piece of themselves to you. So when they do that, they've got a vested interest in you buying it. So there's a psychological angle to these things as well. And it's small little techniques. None of these things are the magic wand. But these little incremental things can add up to make a real difference. And as you start implementing these things in your day-to-day routines, you'll find that these little incremental gains, they add up and there's a multiplier effect. And one of the things I mentioned at the start is you look back at where you've come from. So if you start weaving some of these things into your day-to-day activities or whether it's your job hunting, your study, whatever it might be, and then look back in 6 months, in a week's time, in a month's time, in 6 months' time, and just see how those little things have helped, what they've done, how if you're still using them or if you need to refresh on them, and see what it's done, not just to the journey you've taken, but also how's it affect your confidence? How's it affected your self-esteem? How has it affected your, how you see yourself and where you position yourself? And, does that mean that you're now able to, at an in-person event, just go up and introduce yourself to someone where maybe before you'd have been a little shy and stood in the shadows? All of those little things, keep tabs on how you're developing with these things. If it's working, if you need to tweak things, and look at that consistent growth. Because if you can grow, it's much better to grow, sort of that 0.5% every day than it is to suddenly go, one day grow 30% and then kind of fall back a little bit. So that continual improvement is really important, and have faith in yourself. And looking at the network you have here, Arewa, you've got some phenomenal people. So I think it's important you recognise exactly what you have as an individual, and also your friends, colleagues, and peers. Don't be afraid to bring them up and give them confidence, and tell them when they're doing well. Not fake platitudes, because that doesn't help. But when someone's done something well, be kind, be congratulatory. If someone does something for you, thank them genuinely. Celebrate the small wins and all those little pieces to create that harmony that breeds confidence and assurance. And I think there's a lot that your group can really do to achieve spectacular things.
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of us struggle with imposter syndrome. No matter how accomplished we are, we always feel less than when comparing ourselves to others who have accomplished more in a shorter time frame. And I think that that's the struggle. A lot of people, oh, look at the span, look at what I've been able to do in 5 years, and look at what this person has been able to do, and not understanding that your journey is completely different than this person's journey, and that you're a completely different person, and the consequences of your journey might be more dramatic than theirs. Even though they've accomplished more, you might be more impactful with the little that you have done than someone who has done a lot. And I think that that's what a lot of people need to remember when dealing with imposter syndrome. And thank you so much for that eloquent answer and reminding us our inner worth and inner strength and our skills and how we can steadfast that into the quantum computing industry.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing talk. I've learned a lot about the projected growth of quantum industry and the immediate areas that are developing, and also how we can use tools like LinkedIn and TikTok. That's a new one that I didn't know, to put ourselves out there and network. And so this has been an amazing talk, and I really appreciate it. We're getting to the end of our talk. And so we can just wrap up with, what do you think is the most impactful field in quantum? If we are looking to, if someone is looking to finish a PhD, what concentration do you think would be the best to put their foot forward in the quantum industry right now?
Yeah, so I'll come to that in just a moment, but I think actually what you said about the imposter syndrome and comparing people to others, the other thing is it's probably not a fair comparison, because when you're thinking of when you're comparing yourself to others, you probably don't value yourself as well as other people do, and if you're looking at it from in that way. You know all your doubts. Everyone is thinking, what if they find out? What if they find out? It's a natural human instinct. What if they find out? What if they find out? And everyone thinks it. Whereas the person you're comparing themselves to, you see their curated public persona that they choose to present to the world, that's curated. You don't see them when they're lying in bed and they've got a cold or a flu. You don't see them when they've spilt their coffee down their shirt, or all of the things that that you do. You don't see that because they don't present it to you. So that comparison isn't real for the most part. You've got the person where you think, wow, look at what they've done in 5 years. They're a CEO. They've got that. They could be heavily in debt. They could have no friends because they've turned into a terrible human being. They don't show this. So that comparison, as hard as it may be, just try and minimize that. If there's something you can learn from the person, if there's something you think, well, I'd love to know what they've done something I'd love to do. Ask them about it. See what you can learn. See what you should do, what you shouldn't do. But don't think I want to be that person. Try and make it a little bit more practical. Would be my advice. And it means you're not beating yourself up constantly with false comparisons.
Absolutely.
And I think so. In terms of coming back to the question, I just thought that was important. So sorry to digress slightly.
No, welcome digression. Thank you.
I think, it's in terms of where people should go in quantum. So I think I would come back to what's important to you first of all, but to maybe paint and I can't tell people where the best place to go is, because it's not within my gift to tell people what's best for them. But if I was going to sort of pick out some differences in the landscape, so a lot of attention within quantum goes on to quantum computing. And it's kind of been, it's been the sort of the sexy, futuristic, cool thing, and it attracted a lot of the early finance. And a lot of people still think quantum technologies are just quantum computing. And quantum computing is great. I love it. There's some really cool stuff, but the time for it to be really effective is a little bit in front of us. So it's still early days. There's not really sort of huge real world impact from it. but it has the potential to be really, really disruptive on so many things. In terms of if you want to do something real world now, I would say look at quantum sensing. I would say look at communications and security. This is stuff that's happening here and now, and is likely to really explode in the next couple of years. There's some really cool stuff with things like navigation, gravimeters, from the sensing side of things, medical devices, in terms of security and communication. So you can almost look at it. So the quantum computers in the security space, compute is like the offensive piece, and security is a defensive piece. So you have to get your defense in place before the attack is ready to do damage. And we're kind of coming into that sphere at the moment where I predict whether it's, we're seeing a big uptick in this, but I predict over the next year to 2 years, there's going to be a huge explosion because, I mean, there's an outside chance there could be something bad happens with someone having data decrypted or whatever it might be. I think for the most part, we probably won't know about it because it'll be government led, and it'll be a government spying on another government or some banks or something like that. And we'll never know when Q Day is when it happens. It won't be until months afterwards. But there may be that there's some regulations that really bite or something like that. So there's going to be a time where the money pouring into this is going to go through the roof, because all of a sudden, all of the people that are selling their quantum security thing for $10,000 on a Monday, the regulation comes in on a Friday, it's 100,000. Someone phones up next week and says, I want that thing for $10,000. The person's going to say, well, it's $1 million now. The banks and everyone's paying more money than you. They need it. And you're at the back of the queue. And there's going to be that sharp uptick, is my prediction, in quantum security. So it depends on what you want to do. And there's a lot of different avenues to tread. I think as well, where you're looking, you've got entrepreneurs and software developers and all sorts of whole data analysts as well. There's also ways for different people to come in and perform different roles in the quantum ecosystem with these skills as well. So also look at kind of, if you're in that field, it's probably because you've had an excitement or an aptitude for it. Work out how that fits into the quantum mosaic, because it does. It's just where that fits in and where your aspirations tie into that. So, and yeah, there's different time horizons with different roles and different technologies across the ecosystem as well. And even storytellers, teachers, all of these things. We need everyone with bringing all their weird and wonderful skills to the party.
All right, that was amazing. Thank you very much for that eloquent breakdown. And I think you answered it very well. And it's coming to a close. It's 11 a.m. now, and we begrudgingly let you go. We hope to see you again next time. It was quite wonderful having you, John. And we hope to have you on again next time.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks for your time today. It's great speaking with you all, and I'm looking forward to next time as well.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Cheers, all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. So let's end this recording.